You are listening to the Overwatch Rundown, a weekly podcast covering the latest in the esports scene of competitive Overwatch. Today is Tuesday, January 9th, and we are previewing the Overwatch League. It's been a couple weeks, Jack, since we've been on last. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you guys for coming back. You know, we never sure after the break if
But we're gonna take a hit,
people
Levels.
going to return.
It's gonna be a big hit, but it is.
Oh,
what
that's
it is.
that's okay. We've had it before. We've recovered.
Yeah.
You know, we always landed on our feet here on the Overwatch Rundown. Maybe we can hope to say the same about some of these teams that are playing in the league up and coming, but we're not sure about that either.
Hopefully, some of the teams have all their players landed in Los Angeles by now.
Yeah, well, so some of their feet just got on the ground. What, a week, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago?
I can tell you, if they tried to fly into LAX from international today, they're in for a world of trouble because it's raining here in LA, and the intake area at LAX was flooded for international arrivals. And so you got in, you had to get on a bus, and you're bussed over to another terminal. And of course, it's not set up the same, and so it was just huge, big hassle that everybody was talking about on the news. So hopefully, we won't have a situation where Mendo was trying to get down to Mexico and back.
Yeah, nothing like that.
The event for preseason, we'll see.
But Jax, so I'm just getting this right. You're saying there's mayhem in LA right now? I'm sorry. I had to.
I saw a tweet from Tavika. I think he was driving in Los Angeles, and it looked like he was stuck in some of that freeway traffic.
Which you guys love talking about every time, man. I don't think I can hear a podcast about LA without people talking about traffic.
This traffic is terrible, man. This is why I don't like. For me to get to Burbank, where the studios are, depending on the time of day, it's not happening. It's not happening at all. But I heard day one, at least, of the Overwatch League is completely sold out. So
yeah,
there's interest.
That's definitely good news. And I mean, guys, obviously off the start here, we are only covering Overwatch League, and it's only a preview this week.
What is there to cover? I mean, okay, to be fair, we did, but I think you and I both watched some of the Academy Gaming.
We did. And we might mention something like that,
right.
Winners. Anyways, we can come to that at the end. But it's so hard to compete now with basically the only scene in Overwatch, which is the Overwatch League. Good luck running your Tier 2 tournaments. Good luck running your open divisions and paying attention to that. I just let's talk about the breakdown of the league itself quickly then, Jack, since we're getting right into it. It's 4 stages of 5 weeks with 12 games a week. Jax, that's 240 games over 6 months of regular season. Regular season action. That's not even including the title matches per stage and not including the playoffs.
This is just Overwatch League. So then you mean that I have to cover that? Then I have to cover contenders and I have to cover open division?
20 hours of broadcasting a week per Overwatch League alone. This is a lot. I mean, it's a professional sports league, right?
Let's be honest, in Leplos. We just found out today, last minute deal between Blizzard or Activision Blizzard and Twitch, $90 million to have exclusive rights to the Overwatch League for the first 2 seasons. That means content. That means that the 20 hours a week, it might be more for season 2. You never know, but if Twitch is paying $90 million, they're going to want something for all of that money.
Yeah, viewers' eyes, Jax. That's what they want. They want that advertising money to come through their distribution here. We've seen numbers for the World Cup in the past reach joint of what, like 100K, I think, 100.
It was well over 100.
I think it was like 130 maybe for
across all the various languages, and I think this Twitch deal is for English, Korean, and French. Interesting that they keep sliding French, and I mean, without Rogue, I'm like, is there that much interest from French side of things?
No, that's good question. I guess maybe there's something about the French that watch esports that we don't know about. Guys, if you guys are our French language speaker listeners, go ahead and let us know how much you guys care about, because we are interested to know if we should maybe convert our podcast to French, Jax.
You're going to need a new co-host, Lepos.
Get Toasty on here.
I don't do languages all that well.
Jokes aside, though, about this, Jax, it is definitely a pretty big deal for Blizzard to actually get paid for the
People are
rights and
saying the
not pay out.
biggest deal, in esports so far.
I,
But
yeah, biggest potential deal. But I mean, we were talking about this in the pre podcast show here about the numbers from MLG TV in the preseason and how they were not even mentioned by Nate Nanzaron when he did the podcast tour.
right.
And that's definitely concerning. So I get this feeling that Blizzard wanted more. Of course, you make a deal, both sides are unhappy, right? So, I have a feeling, particularly when this deal came so late, Jax, right? Like it wasn't like this deal was like hammered out like right
Yeah.
after the preseason. This was obviously some strict negotiation on both sides of the coin here. Blizzard Activision trying to get as much money as they can, and Amazon/Twitch trying to talk that price down as much as they could. And I think ultimately, I think Amazon and Twitch had the stronger hand because of how the preseason went. And
I mean, we don't know, but going by what Commissioner Nate Nanzer was saying or wasn't saying, the numbers obviously weren't where Blizzard felt comfortable making them public, which is quite telling, Leplos.
yeah,
But let's just quickly move on to something else. I know this year you and I were both going to try to keep things brief, LOL.
yeah.
But we had a
Overwatch
finalized
Rundown,
roster of broadcast talent for the Overwatch League, at least for Season 1, or at least for the start of Season 1, Leplos. Our hosts will be Puckett and Zoe. Our analysts, Leplos, which you and I were very critical about for the preseason. We've got Crumbs, Bryn, Sideshow, and Reinforce announcing his retirement from professional play to get behind the desk now. On the analyst side, and then for commentators, we've got Monty and Doa, Uber and Mr. X, Simler, and Hexagrams, Leplos.
Yeah, I mean, guess who's taking ZP's spot right there?
Leplos, I don't understand.
I'm telling you, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the people involved, but I'm telling you, there is something in negotiation between ZP and Blizzard that happened, either price-wise or attitude-wise, that made him a non-hire. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
For the Rumble over there in China, a couple, last month, he was there. He was the voice for that one. And I'm just wondering, perhaps we'll get ZP for contenders.
I wouldn't be
There's
surprised if
been
he
a lot
does
of contenders to
so.
cast, but it's such a switch because for the longest time, where ZP was getting play for commentating, and then everybody's like, "Poor Hex," right? It was like a little meme, like, "Where's Hexagrams?" We see ZP at all these events, and there's no Hex, and now there's Hex here, and there's no ZP. And I'm looking at Similar, and I only know him from when he did the E League a little bit last year. I don't know anything about his CS:GO casting.
Yeah, but he does
But
bring people with
I'm
him.
saying to myself,
that follow.
Leplos, if this is a money thing, surely you can get ZP for cheaper than you can get Similar.
Listen, the point of bringing Similar, we talked about this briefly last time, which was
His following, the name.
yeah, he brings
Okay.
people
The
from other
brand.
games into this game because they
Alright.
follow the caster. It's someone that they can latch onto and be like, I like them in that, so I like them here. Like that's purely what this is. ZP, as I said, I'm pretty sure there's something going behind the scenes that we don't know.
Okay.
The only other thing I can mention, Jax, between if you were to hire ZP or Hex, which one do you hire? The metric that I'd go by is Hex's sellouts per minute were a lot higher than ZP's. So, maybe he worked all that. We joked about it. It was a meme, but maybe that's what Blizzard was paying attention to. I don't know. I do not know. But I feel bad for ZP ultimately because I feel like he was a strong member of the casting community, and I feel like we're missing out on that. And
I want people rewarded for hard work, Lepelos, and we would not be here. We wouldn't be here without ZP and what he did. But we've said this before.
Yeah.
People have heard that before. This is our Overwatch League preview, and I've been thinking like just the last few minutes, like, well, how do we want to do this? Everybody has already done their rather in-depth preview of everything.
Jax,
So the people come to us, Lepelos, they want it real, right? They don't want to hear the PC versions of things. So,
I mean, can we just talk about that for a second? Because it's,
Yeah.
it's in our chat on Discord server, or if anytime we've talked, pet peeve of mine is how many of these previews call such and such a team underrated.
Yeah.
How many? I wish I could. I wish I actually took a note of how many teams got labeled as quote unquote underrated. And I have to ask, Jax, when did you hear a team called for this Overwatch League overrated. What team was called overrated? Any of them, Jax? By any of these
Um,
previews?
may no, no, not really.
Exactly. Right? So like I can't really feel great about this. When all they're saying on a lot of these preview shows is this team is underrated. You should take a look out for them. It's like they're either established or they're underrated, Jacks, and this is just hype. When you listen to people that are saying stuff like that, they're just trying to hype up this whole thing. Yeah, the excitement's there, guys. We're at a we're at a precipice here of a huge league being launched. We don't know how it's going to happen. You want all these teams to be good and competitive, but if every team is either established or underrated, you're not really giving me a clean cut view of what's happening here. And
the thing that I don't really like about it, and they like us, they're working with what they have,
yeah,
and a lot of them, they're in the scene, they have the context, so they might have scrim results, they might have various information from their sources, but looking, I just thought to myself, I'm looking at these teams, and I can honestly say we don't really know. We can speculate like crazy,
yeah.
but we don't know. Even for take Seoul Dynasty, who we've seen, the core of this team for the last year, or Dallas, we've seen them for the last year. We don't really know anything. We have not seen Seoul Dynasty levels in a truly competitive setting with Fleta on DPS. And I can tell you right now that for me, Fleta is completely changes this team. They've never had someone with that hit scan skill. They had Eska, LOL, Twitch go along with it. They had, Lee Tae-jun, who played Roadhog, somewhat okay, I suppose. But if you're telling me you know what to expect from Seoul Dynasty, I don't think you can say that. You haven't seen them really go all out like we saw in that 7-game series against, Runaway in season 2, or 7-game series against um Kung Fu Pantera in season 3, right?
So
You haven't
Jax,
seen it. You haven't seen, or I mean, but if you take
I
it for every team, like even
I
take
need to
Dallas
ask you though
Fuel.
that Jax,
Yeah.
just I need to pause you there. So if I'm getting it right, you're saying that Soul Dynasty is so good before, now with Fleta even better. So are they an underrated team?
I
Like
don't I don't think you can underrate Soul Dynasty
exactly.
Lepelos,
That's my
but
point though. Of all these preview shows that have been out
yeah.
there, everyone's saying they're underrated team. Like yeah, guess what? The bar is being raised here across the board. Every team
Yep.
has to get better. You can't look at say like what people expect to be formally talk about as being bottom rated teams and say they're underrated. I.e. Boston Uprising. You can't say
Or San
they're
Francisco. Okay,
underrated.
yeah, I was gonna say San Francisco. People are saying a number. Even the pros are saying. Who was I watching last night? I'll have to think about it. But someone was saying that it was Spree from the Houston Outlaws. He was looking at the San Francisco Shock versus who are they playing this week? Not the Valiant. Maybe it's the Valiant, where he says, "Don't be surprised if San Francisco beat the Valiant." I'm
Yeah.
thinking to myself, "Oh, really? That would be rather interesting." But
I mean, I do think there's competition there. Don't
yeah,
get me wrong here, right? But that competition and even winning a match doesn't necessarily mean they're underrated or overrated. You know what I mean? First week, yeah, it's going to be telling for some teams, particularly some of the ones that performed the worst in preseason or didn't show up at all. Their performances, I think, will be telling about how competitive the league are. So if we want to talk about those, that's up for me. It's Uprising, it's Dragons, it's Florida Mayhem,
right.
and of course Fusion. I think I left out that one. If
Okay.
anyways, those are like the four teams. My bottom list of the teams here coming into the Overwatch League. That if you want to see how competitive this league is going to be, it's these teams that make or break how competitive the league will be. So
Um, if you take a look at the team that's split up by decision, oh my goodness, by division. I just want to take a quick second, 2 to 3 minutes most on each team. At first I was thinking, 5 to 10, but then that would
yeah,
be ridiculously long. Just starting with the Atlantic Division levels. You just give me a few thoughts on what you might think about this team. The Boston Uprising with Striker, Dream Casper, Note, Snow, Nico, Mistakes, Kalios, Gamsu, Kelix, and Avast. Krusty, Shake, and Minnie are their coaches. And looking at Boston, Boston is one of those teams who people might say we are underrating Lepolos. Um, and
can can we just, if we're going to keep this short, let me keep it short. Boston, unproven. You remain unproven until you can prove yourself, and their low rating is there for a reason. Their team got put in place in a very questionable manner.
Right.
Clearly, underdogs. That's your spot. Don't pretend it's not. Don't pretend you're underrated. You are
Right.
underdogs. If you do well, it's unexpected, and at least live up to that badge of honor. Not pretend that you need to be given a better rating than you are right now.
For me, I'm looking at this team and I say to myself, striker, I know you're good in the preseason. You looked very good. I can't wait to see you in the regular season. I haven't seen enough of him, right? So I
Yeah.
don't have the history on him, but I'm looking at someone like Dream Casper. I'm looking at mistakes, the other two DPS that are on the squad with him, and I'm saying you've got a lot to do. Dream Casper, again, I know he's a good player, but he's never really showed that I'm gonna
Next
go here,
level.
Lepelos tier one.
Yeah.
Um, and at the rest of the team, for me, unproven. All of you. I mean, people are gonna just light me up for saying Gamsu is unproven. Gamsu is perfectly fine tank. It's just
This
he's.
level. Can he
When is the
compete?
last time, right? You saw Gamsu and you can. I'm just gonna put it out here. You said, "Wow, he's as good as Miro." You've never said that, Leplos. He's never given you a reason to think that. And
Yeah, we'll
so
have to see.
Boston, for
Jack's.
me, people say underrated. I say unproven, Leplos. Move on to the Florida Mayhem.
I mean, Florida Mayhem list of players is as short as their hopes. I think
Savage.
that
I like it. I
I
like
think
it. I
that's
like it.
about as short as I can make this one. Honestly, I think it was a mistake to put only 6 people. If you remember our preseason preview, I said their best chances right now in the preseason because they should have the tightest coordination out of any team, um, and they didn't show it. And with that bad taste, here we are at starting the Overwatch League. All these other teams have like more players, more analysts, more coaching. I'm sorry,
Leplos,
I
I
don't
see. Here's the
trust in
deal.
Florida
It's
Mayhem.
funny you say coaching. I just pulled up their page and I'm looking here. They have one coach.
Yep.
There's no analyst. You talk about there's no analyst even mentioned here.
Mayhem going for the full. I don't know what
My thing,
else to say
Lepelos,
other
the
than the
key for me for Florida, survive.
yeah.
Survive and stay in striking range of the playoffs until the signing period and fix your roster. See, maybe I'll be proven wrong, right? Maybe Tavik will just become magical. But here's the deal. He can't do it every single. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. Level.
Yeah.
Even Taimu or Ryuji Hung, everybody has an off day, and I'm looking at Tavik. I'm saying you're great, you're proven, fine. Logics, everybody's already said it. Show it to us on LAN. Boosh. The Overwatch League had their little preview show today, and he had a little video segment, and he says, "I can't wait to prove to people that I am a great tank. I can't wait to see it." But for me,
Ouch.
Florida Mayhem, if you're a fan, help them to survive until the signing period, Lepelos, and pick up somebody. They had to pick up someone. Moving on, left, we got the Houston Outlaws here in the Atlantic Division. Clockwork, Jake, Coolmat, Muma, Banny, Linkser, Mendo Kusai, Spree, Boink, and Raucus. That's the exact opposite of Florida, Lepelos. We have a well-rounded roster here.
Yeah, Jax, I agree with you on that one. Keeping this one short, I want to say some of their players have been performing very well, although I still rate this team to be sort of in the middle of the pack. They have upset potential over top teams that I would rate in top teams, but they also are an uncertain quantity to a degree, right? Like, I feel good about this team. I think they showed promise when they had their games in the preseason. So I think they'll do well, but I don't think they're going to, unless there's an upset during like many upsets. I don't think they're going to find their way into the upper echelons of the league standings.
If I lived in Houston, I would have no problem supporting this team.
Same.
I like a lot of players here. I follow Spree on Twitch all the time. Everybody knows I'm a huge Cool Matt fan. But I don't remember who it was, but a month or so ago, someone made the comment that the problem with Houston is that there doesn't seem as if there's room for them to grow Lepelos. And at the time, it just struck me, and it still sticks with me because I'm saying to myself, where do they get the lift from? Like what is going to push them up
For me,
into the realm with, say, Seoul or Dallas. A really, really good team here. I don't see how they win.
Jax, the answer I
Tell me.
have for you is
Yeah,
personal and mechanical improvement of their supports here. Obviously, good players. Don't get me wrong; they're all good players. But when you look at
Raucus and Boink,
Raucus,
Banny.
Boink, even Banny, who in the preseason got to play largely on control point maps, except for I think when they messed up their roster switches. So, okay, that brings up another thing with this team is management and coaching needs to be a little bit more on target if they hope to
I mean, Coach
do
Tae-Rong, head
well.
coach, was not in the country, Lepelos.
Yep.
We talked about arrivals. He is in the country now, so he'll be there. We won't have Flame, trying to take. He's a general manager, okay? I mean, perhaps they had some scheduling problems, so Tae-Rong wasn't there for the preseason, but he is here now. And looking at this, I think one of the catalysts that they could have is coaching. Everybody says Tae-Rong is such a good coach. Mezer was a great tank, Lepelos. He's now a coach. Hyun Woo, I don't know much about this person, but perhaps the coaching, because if we talk about this quick second, we go to Korea, we've talked about how much coaching plays a part in how well those teams do. So if these players are great players, Lepelos, and if, as you say, they can improve on their mechanical skills, if they have the coaches, if they have the analysts to give them that extra little bit that they need, perhaps we'll get that upset that they need in order to get into the top three.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Jax, that
From
brings
there,
us
yo, go ahead.
to the next one, which is, of course, the London Spitfire. Jax still in the Atlantic region, but now across the pond to Europe, as they say, except for, of course, always in LA. So,
Seeing a lot of Korean flags for a European team, Lepelos.
yeah, I this has been one of the complaints continually lodged against London
Okay.
Spitfire and its current. Don't worry, folks. We've got 2 seasons worth of action here in LA, so you don't even need to worry about having non-UK players because they're not playing in UK. That aside, you want a winning team in Jax. I think Spitfire have that for a potential for that at least with their 2 rosters. They have basically 2 potential winning rosters that you could split and still be better than Florida Mayhem on both of those rosters. But
Lepelos is just bringing the heat today. Um,
well, can you blame me for that? I don't know. Miami's easy to make fun of here with their roster. London Spitfire, however, completely opposite. They're all business. When you have both former Kongdu Panthera and GC Busan teams here, sort of coming in at their peak, you got to feel good about this team.
I feel good about the team, Lepelos, the players at least. My biggest concern here is the coaching. I said before, I want to keep it real here on the Overwatch Rundown. Bishop as head coach, I have questions. And after seeing what he did with Cloud9 NA, you cannot help but have questions, Lepelos.
Yeah.
That roster was filled with talent. Rib, Surefour, Mendo Kusai, Gods, Wolf, Adam. That is an all-star team right there. And they couldn't even make it out of the groups against AF Blue, Lepelos, in Season 2 of OGN. From there, they went on to other tournaments. They never won. They went into contenders with. They didn't even make contender season zeros levels. They didn't qualify. They
Yeah,
lost the
they got knocked
tiebreaker
out.
series to Congarna. So I have serious concerns about the coaching. But for me, the key thing that I'm looking at here is integration, or whether or not they will integrate. All the preview shows talk about how they've got these 2 rosters and saying, well, the GC Busan roster underperformed in the preseason, where the Kongdu team did pretty well and swept the San Francisco Shock. For me, I want to see them work. I said it before. I want to see it work with everybody in play here. I want to see Birdring and Profit because last night I was watching Hard Blue stream. He was, all the pros are in LA, so you get a lot of high level games here. And I saw Birdring and Profit, grouped up together playing DPS. And I want to see more of that in Overwatch League. I want to see them mix and match and really, really put in the work to find the best team. Because just taking GC Busan, just taking Kongdu, taking those 2 teams, that's a waste. That's a waste of money. That's a waste of potential here, Lepelos.
This was something I wanted
That's
to talk
coaching.
about,
That's
which
coaching
is,
to me.
I mean, we can talk about this later, but this was a point that we should come back around in terms of strategies. Like, do you keep 2 specialized teams apart and practice them separately, or do you integrate them? Okay, so we talked about that, but Jax, we have a New York Excelsior up next to talk about. Another Korean roster here. How do you feel about this one? off the
I'd
start.
feel better if Flower was 18 and able to play, and if his wrist issues weren't as serious as they sometimes seem to be, Lepelos. But since none of that is the case, I look at the New York Excelsior, and the key for me is Jay Jonak. I hear over and over about how great this guy is. I see his Twitch highlights. I see all the things, the highlight reel that he has put together. That's fine. I want to see him on the pro level. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lepos. Anybody, you can tell me how great he is. That's fine. But until he proves it to me, until I see him go up against Ryu Jae Hong, in the support role, not there. Sabobi, you already know I love Sabobi after the World Cup. Everybody else here, I don't really have a problem. Mano, Fantastic Tank, Janus, Pine, Miko Libero. I'm good there, Lepos. I'm looking at Jay Jonak as the one thing I need to see as to whether or not they can hang with Seoul and potentially London to win the league.
Yeah, and
That one guy right there.
to add on to that, because that is a good point, is I want to point out he's the second support. That you only have the two support. There's no one else here to back you up if you're having a bad day, right? So that is a potential source of weakness for New York Excelsior, I think, is their support play.
They ran Pine on support a couple
of
times.
And I think they had Libero at one point
as well. He had that flex next to his name for that.
Yeah.
He's a great player. He didn't really flex his support as well. I mean, I know people are going to be like, we're talking about Libero's great Libero's. He's fantastic.
His skill across multiple heroes. It's like, well,
yeah.
I don't know. You talk about support. I'm sorry, it is a different aspect of the game, and pretending that an all-star character can suddenly switch over to a support hero when he doesn't play that much support. I mean, yes, they can and do it functionally. Doing it well is something different week in, week out. So,
I mean,
if they train him for it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's trained for it. So I don't think as I said, I think if they run Arc and Jay Jonak all the time and their supports get figured out on the side of New York Excelsior, they're in a place that they can get very well taken apart by teams because of that, right? They have no surprises up their support staff, and that is a potential site of weakness for them. I think,
the other thing
though, they're still a pretty strong team, though. So
can they win? If you go, if you really think about what this team is, the former LW Blue Lepelos, yes, they did win the Intel Extreme Master Season 11 at Gyeonggi. That tournament to me was a little weekend thing with a patch change, and that was when we had a lot of turmoil amongst teams. Like that was when we had the new Rogue roster and the Misfits rosters after they made that switch, and they didn't really have much time together. There was a lot of things going on, and they won that event, I think, at a time that was favorable to them. But if you go and look at extended seasons or extended tournaments like Apex Lepelos, they never
did that well.
Quite made it. They never made it, Lepelos.
Jax,
you never saw them in a final. Can they win? Can they win?
Let me round this out by saying I place New York Excelsior around the same level of Houston Outlaws right now.
I'm not sure. Oof.
I said Houston Outlaws in the middle of the pack. They have the potential to do really well and upset the top tier teams. That's how I feel about New York Excelsior. They're going to do well enough.
People will say, "Oh, Overwatch Rundown." I'm not gonna listen to this. They're crazy. They've never won Lepelos in a serious tournament. They've never won. You gotta win. You gotta show Jack something. But then we're on to the final team in the Atlantic Division, Lepelos, the team with the biggest question mark all written. That's the only thing I have question marks all over this team right now. The Philadelphia Fusion.
Please tell me somebody has gone ahead and taken their logo and made that into a question mark for me, because that is basically it. Basically, looking at it, that's what the logo is, and that's what their team is right now. You can't talk about them seriously other than to say management and administrative issues has plagued them, and that's not a good sign from the start. Jax,
I just pulled up this roster for support.
They tried to take all the support away from New York Excelsior, I guess. But
I mean, Lepelos, I've had reports that Carpe, highest paid player in the league at 180,000, more than 150K, obviously. Carpe, really good player, but wow, 180.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Neptuno play DPS before, Jax, on Neptuno feeds, but
there was some actual feeding done there.
There was some actual feeding. So, in all honesty, I don't know what to expect of this team. This seems like a very mashed together team, and that's what I think we'll see for the first
I'm
few
looking.
weeks, unless something magical has happened in the interim.
That this mashed together works here. I'm looking at this team levels. I'm saying I just don't see the synergy here, and I mean, one, I'm looking at all the various flags here that they have, of the players and the countries that they represent. Korea, Israel. I didn't even know that, by the way.
Yeah,
Russia, Finland, the UK, Canada, Spain, and I literally just want to draw a question mark because outside of Carpe and Shadowburn who play together with FaZe, what what do you expect here, Lepolos? Like, I'm looking at Boombox, who you and I have both rated very highly, and I'm saying you've got Boombox, and then right under Boombox, Lepolos, see Dayfly. I mean, keeping it real because you can't attack someone like that. What is he doing here, Lepolos?
uh,
Dayfly with
I,
Boombox. I mean, so you got Joe Meister, you got Neptuno, right? They both play the same thing. If you think what do they do? They played Lucio, both
yeah.
of them at a very
That
high level.
that is a very questionable and that
Boombox
goes
and
again to the
Dayfly,
questions
right?
I have about management jacks. I think that's all the time we need to talk about
Levels.
Philadelphia
Okay, quick
Fusion.
question though. Where do they finish in the Atlantic Division? Philadelphia, right here.
Uh,
You got Florida. I'm
we
serious. You
have
gonna put them
Florida
above
and
Florida?
Boston Jacks. I think they're a big question mark right now. I think they're
Levels. Give
they're
me. You
competing
got
with
you.
Florida for bottom spot Jacks.
Oh. From there, Lepolos, we go over to the Pacific, starting with the Dallas Fuel, Team Envy, plus Seagull, plus XQC, plus Custa.
Yeah, I think they're pretty strong. There's no doubt about that, Jacks. Depends on how serious. We've seen Envious when they were Envious come out pretty flat from breaks. Their preseason games were pretty good.
They were terrible levels. They ran some weird.
Yeah,
I
they're playing
the
around, but
okay.
they
Do
won.
we ever get any confirmation about XUC suspension, or did he just get by with that?
I
I
think
haven't
he
heard
got
anything
by with it,
official.
to be
So if
honest.
XUC is available, that's huge for them.
But do
In the
you play
preseason,
them? Like this was actually one of my notes, Jax, to
mhm.
talk about Dallas Fuel is like, did they just go hands off on them and say we're not going? Like, did Dallas Fuel ever really weigh in on the whole incident or the net series of incidents that happened? I don't think so. I think internally they probably had discussions. Like, definitely
Levels,
something happened
a
internal.
good comment here in chat on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lepos, where you record live every Tuesday night. Honestly though, what is Custa for? Mora? I mean, let people.
Backup.
I
I agree. I
Chips
agree with
Lepos,
Dylan. Yeah,
one of the best supports in the world. Maybe you got to put you. I think Ryuje Hung might have got that number one slot. Maybe some people say Unko, some people say Chipsgen. All three of those guys, I think, are in the mix, on any given day.
yeah.
Some people say Jay Jonak levels. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'll see it this week. I don't know. But for right now, though, if you've got Chipsgen, what's Custa gonna do?
Yeah, Custa's there for additional
For
support.
the
I think if
303 Lepelos?
Chips needs a break or something. Yeah,
It's a break?
no.
What, too much Jack in the Box he ate or
If
something?
he listen, people can have off days, and
Okay.
you know it,
No,
right?
you're
Like
not wrong.
if a good team, I think, does what Fuel did here and picks up backups, good backups, and put them in place if they need them. I think Custa's such a pick. I think he knows it too. And I wouldn't be surprised if XQC sort of found that out too as well. I mean, I do think
Similar.
there's XQC might have more potential just because of the very different play in terms of tank play to
Similar
Coco.
to the London Spitfire for Dallas Fuel, I want to see integration. The
Yeah,
preseason to me was Coach Kakai messing around. They still won their games, which is it's something that Envy always did. Like once they won, then they kind of backed off and they did what they're like. Look, okay, we got the win. Let's try something out. To
yeah.
me, the preseason was Coach Kakai trying something out. He's got
So
Seagull now levels. He's got XUC. He's got Custa, and we've always said, who on DPS is benched to make room for Seagull. And I want to see when it's real, when it's in a series, their first game is against the Soul, is it not?
Yeah, they're playing.
You know,
Last
this
game
is what I
of
see. This is
tomorrow
what I
night.
want to see. I want
That's
to see
the
what Coach Kai does
dreamer game.
here with the players that he has. But Lepolos, take us into my team.
Oh,
Yes, I am claiming them. The
Jax.
Purple Lion.
He has
Lepolos,
planted a
the Los
flag.
Angeles Gladiators.
The Gladiators, Jax. Listen.
Be honest, Lepolos. They're my team. I can take it. I'm gonna give it to them myself. Let's go.
I'm gonna go with you, Jax. Hydration. What's he doing on this team? Asher. Asher, do you think these guys are going to carry that second DPS
No.
slot next to Surefire Wellness?
The Los Angeles Gladiators, like the Florida Mayhem, are in that survival slot. They've got to make it to this mid-season signing period, Lepolos, and they've got to bolster this roster. I love Big Goose and Shaz on the support. I'd like to see them pick up another someone who could flex onto support / flex onto DPS. So the supports I like. Sure I want to see him return to what we saw in Cloud9. I agree with you on that. I don't think he has shown what he once did, Lepolos. I mean, maybe it's motivation. I don't know. I'm hoping he finds himself this season. But Asher and Hydration, I have massive question marks next to their names and all over their jerseys, Lepolos. Hydration, I need to see more than just Farah. His Genji I'm just being honest now, his Genji has never impressed me like some other Genji players has. And I want to, if he wants to keep his spot, Lepolos, I want to see him a little bit more off tank, flex tank play at a high level. Not this crappy diva that we would always see some, DPS. Okay, we need a diva. I'm gonna go switch a diva, and then I'm looking at some, tier 3 diva trying to do something.
Yeah, Jax, I agree with you. I'm just going to wrap this one up by saying Los Angeles Gladiators, I don't think they're going to end at the bottom of the league, but I do think they're going to be in the bottom half of the league.
Bottom half. Lepolos takes us into the second Los Angeles. Look at Los Angeles. We got two teams.
Two teams.
So we have all that traffic, Lepolos. You see, it's so many people here.
Yeah, so many people. And this other team has a lot of people on it as well. Speaking of a lot of things. Los Angeles Valiant, of course, here. Jax, they've... When they were formerly Immortals, they had the people. They still have a lot of those people. Still a lot of questions coming out of that period, Jax, that are not solved by these pickups.
Lepolos, right. Just 4 or 5 days ago, we had reports of a coaching change. The head coach, what was his name? Ooks leaves the team. They bring in Damon and Gumba. Lepolos, Gumba from blank.
Yeah, very, very interesting changes.
Lepolos, how do you make a coaching change a few days before the season starts?
I think that's pretty telling about how confident they are, and I don't think, skill-wise, I don't think there's a reason to not feel confident, but I have concerns about your favorite term of the day, which is integration here. And I also have concerns about the long history of not really going forward with a plan. I want to just revisit where we were about a year ago with Immortals and their playstyle and what
they were winning the NG Winter Premier this time.
I just want to remind everybody about that though, because Valiant is one of those teams, and they're not the only one. You could potentially say this about GC Busan, for instance, as well. Mainly won off of very scrappy fights. And while that is commendable, there's also inherent risk in that, and I think that caught up with Immortals, and it sort of carried through to where they are now. And unfortunately, when you add in the problems of integration, I think this team is going to face some struggles. Their skill level is enough to put them in the middle of the pack. I don't think there will be an upside potential of Los Angeles Valiant over the top teams. So do I place them, where do I place them? I sort of place them around, again, the Outlaws, New York Excelsior level, maybe even a little bit lower depending on how well they've integrated.
Right now, at this moment, I would agree with that. I put them right underneath Outlaws and Excelsior, but the potential for this team is huge. Levels. You talk about them, their scrappy fighting style or playing style. Playing style. That's why I look at Unco, my man, world's best Zen. I've always, me, I've always said Unco is the best Zen. I think he fits in. He's a brawler. He's a fragger on DPS, on support. I think he is better at the main support than Kareev was. For me, Lepolos, Fate, hopefully the coaching staff has figured out a way to corral him. His monkey is all over the place. Sometimes Lepolos, he's too He's on the final point of Dorado, and his team is, bro, we got to capture the first point before we get to the third point. He's already gone.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong when it comes to integration. I look at all these players, like specifically that below the DPS.
I
Silk
wanted to
Thread,
talk to you.
Agilities, Grim Reality, and Soon. I love my boy Grim,
So I was going to say,
but
do
I don't
you
like
see him
hydration.
playing?
I don't. What's Grim gonna do?
Listen, at least here on the Valiant, with Grim, I don't think Grim is going to see much playtime, to be honest. When you look at the trio of
That's my
Silk
boy.
Thread, Soon, and
Lepelos, Grim Reality.
popping off heads
He
on
helped get
McCree.
Immortals to where they were.
I agree. He did
Is he
incredible
peaked,
work.
At 18, 19?
Don't get me wrong. I'm just judging by past experience. Obviously, coaching and good coaching, and particularly good personal coaching, I do believe Grim Reality can play at this level. I can say that of pretty much any player, though.
Yeah.
It's up to him to make that difference, and I don't know. We don't see the scrims. We don't see how much of his potential is being tapped.
I have
by
a star
himself
next to
and
the
by his
Valiant
coaching
because I think they're the stars for their potential. If they put in the effort, Lepelos, this team could you want to talk about underrated Lepelos? This team could be underrated, maybe.
Yeah, but again, coaching staff coming into play.
Coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Lepelos, San Francisco Shock, fourth team in the Pacific Division. IDDQD, Dante, Sinatra is unavailable. Sleepy unavailable. No, sorry, super unavailable. Nevix, my boy, Baby Bay, Nomi, and Dak. Lepelos, San Francisco Shock, underrated or overrated?
I'm putting them. Well, listen, if everyone's listing them as underrated, that would be suggesting that should be rated higher, Jax.
Yeah.
In which case, I am saying they are overrated, particularly without access to some of their members. You're left with very questionable tank line right now.
Yeah.
And again, not a knock against Nomi. Nomi's a good player, but I'm not going to call him a tank carry as the only main tank that's available right now.
Lepelos, if I'm looking at the Pacific Division, right, if you want to talk main tanks, you're going to put Nomi up against Coco and XQC. I remix. I didn't even get into the tanks of LA Gladiators because I have limited time.
Yeah.
Fate, you've got over there on Seoul, you got my boy Miro Lepelos, Shanghai Dragon. We're not going to go there just yet.
Yeah, as I said, sort of middle of the pack in lore. But Jax, go ahead and tell me who's that second tank right now for them.
Lepelos. Right now, it's Nevix.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I said before. Everybody knows I'm a huge Nevix fan. I have a lot of players that I really love to watch, and Nevix, I could never catch him streaming. And then one day, I think it might have been before the new year. I don't know when. I just happened to. I had his channel follow. I'm like, wait, Nevix is streaming, and Nevix was playing Diva Lepelos. And I know it's like I shouldn't really bring this up because I criticized, not really criticized, but I was critical of Jay Jonah because all I've seen from him is competitive pub stomping. But I watched Nevix play Diva, and damn, the guy was really good, Lepelos. And I've seen his Roadhog play. But see, I'm not surprised because for me, Nevix is the ultimate flex player in Overwatch. And if he can produce Lepelos, if he can hang in there with Zumba, with Kumat in that flex tank position, that's a really good spot or a really good thing for the San Francisco Shock because without Tim Lepelos, they don't have a flex tank. Yeah. No, you can't tell me any of these other players are suddenly. I mean, okay, Baby Bay can play Zarya. We know that, right? He's a DPS player playing Zarya. But who else, Lepelos?
I'm just going to say this about the Shock. I put them in about the same competition level as I put the Valiant.
Really?
Yeah. Right. So like lower middle area, right? I don't see them competing for the bottom like the Fusion. Okay. But I don't see them with good play and good coaching. I think they can compete with Outlaws.
Let me ask you one question before we move on to Lepelos.
Yeah.
If Baby Bay has an off day, can San Francisco Shock beat anybody?
Yeah, and I think this is the issue.
As much as I like Nevix and what he can do, if Baby Bay is not able, he popped off in the preseason, right? He showed us things we didn't know he had. But like everybody has a bad day. If he has a bad day, can IDQD step in and fix that, Lepelos? Can Dante? And for me, my answer is no.
My answer would be no right now as well.
At least not
And
until 150K.
it,
Once 150K is
listen,
there, Lepelos,
yeah,
who knows?
they've all been practicing, but this is true of every single team. So of course you're
Okay.
going to say, well, IDD, QD has improved, Dante's improved. Yeah, well, so has everyone in the league.
Yeah.
What we've seen in the past is these players, if everyone has improved at the same rate, will not make that big of a difference.
Okay.
Ultimately, if Baby Bay doesn't go off, and that's why I put them in mid tier levels right now and not bottom tier, because
Okay.
they have potential to do really well, but that potential is it's not out of their reach. It's just unseen so far. So this is the story that they have to sell themselves on. It's like, listen,
Okay,
we have talent,
Lepelos.
we have coaches, we can do
We'll
well,
take it
but right now,
into Korea next for the Seoul Dynasty.
Jax, do
But
we
the
even
only
have
question
to
I
go
have
through
for
this
you,
team? Like,
I have one question for you.
yeah.
What is the weakness?
Well, I mean, we talked.
We know they're good. Where are they weak, Lepelos?
So their weakness comes actually from stuff that they've said themselves. They do not deal with new strategies very well, and that's
Right.
very clear on the
We've seen it.
Junkertown
Yes, we have seen
advice.
it. Yes.
They get thrown. They get thrown when they're approached with something different that they haven't practiced for, and that is a struggle for them. And I think
Lepelos,
that will
but
remain a struggle.
here's the deal. Their biggest competitor in their division is Dallas Fuel. You know, Coach Kai Kai loves to throw random crap together, and it works all the time.
Yeah.
All the time he does this. If
Yes.
they don't deal with, new things, new strats, right? Before, Envy was a rather known quantity. They had their six. You knew what you can't. I mean, as much as he liked to play around, you knew what to expect. But in the preseason, I'm not just talking about the gimmicks that Dallas Fuel ran. It was the way the team changed when XQC was in on tank compared to Coco. And with him having that option to make that main tank switch to bring in Seagull now, because, Tailspin long gone, right? They
Yeah.
haven't had that projectile play here. So if they don't deal well with something random, with something changing, Lepelos, is it possible Dallas Fuel take it?
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
What kind
It's
of
up.
percentage are we talking about here, Lepelos? Give me a number. Give me
Listen,
a number.
I still heavily favor Soul here, so I'm going to say it's about
Okay.
two to one odds here
Oof.
that Soul will win over Envy.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Soul Dynasty, particularly with Fleta, you mentioned him earlier off the top here of this podcast.
So
That's a good pickup.
as good as they are, Lepelos, as good as how many positions. You look at this roster.
Yeah.
As what all that they can. What a roster this is, dude.
Yeah,
By the
no,
way.
it's
Um,
absolutely
well,
a
we're
top
gonna
tier
get.
one.
Can we put the inflexible stamp on top of them then?
The question is, with all these pickups, are they as inflexible as they used to be? I don't know, Jax. We're going off of past history.
Plus,
and
they got the new coach.
history.
They have GC Busan's coach, the guy who figured
Yeah.
out the strat to beat them, Lepelos.
Yeah, no,
Now their coach.
that's a good move for him, for the coach. I hope they continue to do well and improve on their areas of weakness. Do they have individual skill weaknesses? Absolutely, Jax. Like,
Lepelos, they have 4 coaches.
it's just they're so covered up by each other. The team play of Seoul Dynasty is number one, and
Okay.
across all teams that so far that we've seen, right? Like their synergy is very, very, very good. So I would expect them to continue that on going into the Overwatch League. So I would expect them to end up number one right now. I see no reason to call them overrated.
Take us into the last team, Pacific
Again,
Division.
another team mired in some issues, Jax. We've had drama issues with this team.
Yeah.
We don't report on drama, but unfortunately, we do have to mention it a little bit here. They've had one of their coaches, I believe what it was, having issues with account sharing. They've brought
Players
in a
had
new
some,
coach. Jax, I wanted to mention this. If we talk about management issues, they brought in a new coach just today or just yesterday?
and this is what I wanted to get into. They brought in the coach of Miraculous Youngsters. So you bring in Miraculous Youngsters coach. How long until we get Miraculous Youngsters players levels? Where is my boy Zufan June? I can't believe he's not on this roster. I don't care how old he is, Lepelos. You have Flower, who can't even play the entire first season. So if the New York Excelsior can have him on the books and cut him a check, Warbird, you can pay my man Zufan June then. He's a fantastic support player.
Did you just
Look
call
at
me
this support here.
But
Levels, they're weak at support. They're terrible at support.
I agree with you. Although you have